Good evening. I want to call this meeting of the Wendell Town Board to order. I want to welcome everyone who's here tonight. We kind of have unusual circumstances. We're in the middle of our renovations, so y'all getting a little sneak peek of everything that's going on. It's just like renovations, I'm sure we've all done at our homes, and sometimes things take longer than expected. So, but we should be wrapping it up in a couple of weeks, I hope. That being said, let's see. Chief Bill Carter's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Our invocation tonight is Errol Briggerman from Wendell Baptist Church. Thank you, Mr. Briggerman, for being here with us tonight.
Let us pray. Lord, we just thank you for the beautiful day you've given us. We thank you, Lord, for this beautiful city. We just are so in awe of what you've done and around this area. We just pray now, Lord, for our board. We pray for the decisions that they have to make. We just know, Lord, that they will honor you. We just continue to raise them up. We continue to just pray for our community as it grows. We just pray, Lord, that it grows in you. For all these things, we ask in your blessed name. Amen.
Thank you. Public comment. We have 3 people signed up tonight. If anyone who has signed up is here to speak regarding any of the items we're having public hearings for tonight, I would ask you to hold your comments until the public hearing time. But otherwise, if you're here just to speak in public comment, we'll get started. The first name is Carol Hennett.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Carol Hennett. I'm here on behalf of the Wendell Historical Society. And I don't know how many of you were able to attend our annual 4th of July event, but it was outstanding. So if you missed it, go online, find everything you can. I would like to thank the town of Wendell for all of their efforts financially, for bringing us tables and chairs, to just helping us oversee everything. It made it a lot easier when you have a few people doing a whole lot, when you got the town backing you. I'd also like to thank the police department, public utilities, planning. I think we touched every department in the town this year. And it was a very successful because they were so willing to help when you all allowed them to help. I'd really like to thank Patrick Reedy for coordinating the effort of getting Mr. Yuri Gali here from Pisa, Italy. That was the hit. That made our 4th of July. And anybody who didn't get to meet the 2 gentlemen, Yuri Gali and Benny Howard, missed an opportunity. Yuri is the loveliest young man I've met in a long time. Mr. Howard at 92, 93 is adorable. And I just wish everybody had that opportunity to meet him. But I do thank everyone for their participation. I don't know how we'll top it next year or the year after, but we'll try. I have one last thing of personal interest to me. And I thought about whether or not I should say it, but I think these things should be said at every opportunity. We're at a crisis in our country. We lost African American youth last week. We lost 5 policemen. Every life matters. I heard a commentator say last night, if you have an eye for an eye, you have a lot of blind people. We've got to stop this. We have so much to be thankful for in our country, and we need to acknowledge that. Yes, we have some problems, but it's nothing that we can't overcome by having open communication, to listen to what others say they believe is happening. I'm not pointing any fingers. We have great policemen, and I love our police here in Wendell. I appreciate every day they go out, and I wish them great safety. I love the citizens of this town, and I want them to feel free to come forward to speak with anyone about any problem they have. And I think we have that, but I'm not sure that all of our citizens understand that we have that, and we've got to do a better job of opening our arms and embracing everyone. I'll get off my soapbox now. But every night when you go to bed, please pray for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ed Morrell. State your name and address. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor and Board of Commissioners, my name is Ed Burrell, 164 Newtown Lane here in Wendell. And I'd like to acknowledge and thank the board and the TV station for broadcasting the town board meetings. My wife and I try to diligently watch every one. It makes us informed, and it's very interesting. And so I really appreciate being able to turn on my TV and each week and see the town board meetings. I couldn't help but find last meeting very interesting, and I just wanted to comment on that. And I know that you wrestled with a very difficult issue. How do we offer our citizens the best services and yet keep our tax rates low? And I know that the vote wasn't unanimous, and there was active discussion. And I'd just like to say, as a citizen, isn't it wonderful that we live in a democracy? Isn't it wonderful that we can have different views, discuss them openly, discuss them freely, take a vote, and the majority move on. And as I watched the last meeting, I thought, gee, I'm glad I live in this country, and I'm glad I live in Wendell. And I appreciate all the hard work that went into bringing that forward. I appreciate, as a citizen, I appreciate the public meetings that you had on the budget. I appreciate the work sessions that you had on the budget. I appreciate your openness with the budget. I think you did a great job. I appreciate Mr. Joyner's comment to delay the vote until the last meeting so that all five could vote. I agree with Mr. Joyner's comment that savings should be something that you can dip into and then hopefully repay. I think that was very sound. I appreciate Mr. Boyette's position on it, and he had good thoughts. And in life and in business, I have always found that there's no right and wrong answers. That you talk about the facts, you discuss them, you make a decision, and that's what you did. And I think you did a great job. And I just want to, as a citizen, just want to commend you for your work, the time that you spent, and just to say that. Backing up on Carol's comments, we live in a great town. We're not perfect, but we're a great town. And we have great police, we have great firefighters, we have great EMS people. In fact, we had that at our plant today. We had a EMS call today. And it's wonderful to have such response, such quick response to needs that we have. We live in a great town, and it's a great place to live, and it's a great place to have a business. And I commend you. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Pellis.
Actually got signed up in the wrong spot. It was supposed to be for number 3, the public comment.
Public, that'll be fine. Just come back in. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion approved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3 is a public hearing on development agreement for the Wendell Falls subdivision as it relates to infrastructure improvements and water allocation schedules. Mr. Bergmark.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. As stated, this item deals with an amendment to the development agreement for Wendell Falls. So Newland Nash, the applicant in this case. The development agreement has been amended a number of times since 2006 due to some necessary modifications or changes in ownership. This one is dealing primarily with a Exhibit C of the DA, which is a schedule of water allocation purchases, purchasing from the town for Wendell Falls. This was originally put in place to kind of coincide with the estimated schedule of development in Wendell Falls, but as they've started building and moving along, they've actually purchased more than they require by a decent amount. So as a result, they wanted to come forward and ask, along with a couple other things, to amend the schedule to reflect what's now anticipated in terms of development pace. So you have that as attachment A with the updated development expectations. The one other item I want to mention is that this DA amendment would also clarify that the allocation could be used for both commercial or residential. In the original DA, it just, the way it was listed on the table might make you think that it was only for homes. But as long as they're using that for commercial, as long as that does not impair their ability to already serve those homes that have gone through development subdivision sections that have gotten construction document approval, then we would be allowing them to use it for commercial as well as residential as part of this DA amendment. And so by amending this, it would reduce the likelihood of Wendell Falls purchasing more allocation than that's not needed at the time of the purchase, and enable us to then allocate that to new residential or commercial development outside of Wendell Falls, which have expressed an interest in locating in our town. Right now, we don't really have a shortage. It's not a huge concern, but as development potential increases, as we continue to grow, we wouldn't want to have a lot tied up that's not being used while other people are in need, and we can't further that economic development. One other item that's being included in this is Exhibit D, which is a memorandum of agreement. This reflects actually a prior agreement between town staff and developer regarding the timing of roadway improvements along Pool Road and Martin Pond Road. And it essentially states that some additional improvements will be required as each phase comes in, but then the full road improvements to Martin Pond and Pool Road abutting their development, they would have to be installed no later than December 31st, 2020. So it still has kind of that drop dead date. Or if they go ahead and develop phase 7, which is on the east side of Martin Pond, then they put it in at that time. So it would be one or the other. And in exchange for kind of some of these flexibility we're giving, they've agreed to install sidewalk along Martin Pond Road, along SF1. So that's already been developed, and it wasn't required at the time for the original proposal. So that installation would also occur by that drop dead date. Finally, at staff request, they've also included some language just to clarify that the town is not financially responsible for acquisition, design, engineering, or installation of traffic signals. So this could be the developer, this could be someone that they're selling property to, but we're just wanted it to be clear that it's not us. If it's being driven by their project, then we're not responsible. Our town attorney has reviewed this, or actually David review this to ensure that it's in compliance and we're protected from a legal standpoint, and they concur with that. So staff does recommend approval of the proposed amendment to the DA. We do have members, representatives of Newland here. If there's any questions for them, in addition to if there's any questions for myself, I'd be happy to take those at this time.
Does anyone from the board have any questions for Mr. Bergmark? Okay. This public hearing is now open. If anyone would like to speak for or against this, you can come up and speak. All right. Public hearing is now closed. What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment for the Winnebago subdivision as it relates to the infrastructure improvements and the water allocation schedules.
Is there any motion, any discussion on the motion? All in favor? All right, thank you. Item 3B is a public hearing on the zoning text amendment to alter the manner in which a use is permitted within a proposed conditional district. Mr. Burgmark?
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, the board is being asked to hold a public hearing on potential changes to two chapters, Chapter 2 and Chapter 15, both relating to conditional districts. This item, reading through it, in some ways it seems wordy and complicated, in other ways it's really simple. Essentially, right now, the way that the UDO is structured, and I should say, my apologies, the applicant in this case is Sharon Rue with River Associates on behalf of the Greater Area North Carolina Jurisdiction Church of God in Christ, and this relates in part with the conditional district request chapter tonight, although this is a text amendment, so this would apply to anybody who's applying for a conditional district if it were passed. So essentially, right now, the way that our UDO is worded, you cannot add a use as part of a conditional district that doesn't exist anywhere in our code. You also cannot change the manner in which it's approved. So all uses are either just permitted by right, meaning it doesn't have to come before this board, permitted with additional standards, meaning so long as they meet some already written out standards such as buffering or something else, that it was approved, or permitted with a special use permit. Under that third category, you have to come for a separate public hearing before this board in order to get approval for a special use permit. The applicant is looking to include within their conditional district, and you'll see here shortly, a couple of uses that would normally require a special use permit. Those being townhome and duplex, as well as some apartment uses. What they're asking to do is be able to allow that to be permitted as part of the conditional district request that you're seeing. It still affords this board the opportunity to attach any conditions that you might see as warranted based on their particular case. It just eliminates the need to have a separate, someone might say redundant hearing by having both a conditional district approval and then a special use permit approval. And the thinking behind this is essentially that if you're already having all this material, because a conditional district, you get a lot more material up front than just regular rezoning. You're already seeing a site plan, you already know what the surrounding environment would be like, and you already have the opportunity to attach conditions. So if you're already getting all that information as part of the conditional district request, is it necessary to then have a separate public hearing as part of the special use? And both are public hearings, so both afford the public the opportunity to come and speak their mind about it as well. So the two sections that would be affected are 2.18C and 15.3 or 15.13 of UDO. We're also, as part of this, suggesting that we shore up the language to make them match. There was a little bit of discrepancy in how it was worded relating to when uses may be included or vary. So as part of this, we're suggesting that the language in 15 just be identical to that in Chapter 2. The applicant submitted some language. If you've seen the report, it was kind of broken into two sections, what they submitted versus what kind of staff modified it to be. They're fine with our modifications, and the only real difference, you'll see that in this section C under 2.18, there's taking out the section where it says accept use to make it so it is possible to make a modification to the way in which the use is permitted. And then we're changing the language in this table. This is actually the applicant's language. We modified that slightly, and I'll show you that. As I stated, the applicant has no problem with how we modified it, but we've modified this section to say uses permitted may not be added rather than varied. Unless the use proposed is not currently defined or contemplated by the code, the manner of approval, an example, permitted by right, special use permit, required, etc., may be modified as part of the conditional district request. So that would be the changes that we would be making, as well as just changing one sentence in Chapter 15 to match the language in Chapter 2. The planning board heard this at their June meeting and did vote 7-0 in favor of recommending these changes to 2 and 15 be made by the town board. As part of this, and you've seen your ordinance, there is a statement of plan consistency included within the ordinance, saying how it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and reasonable in nature. And the planning board found the proposed changes to be reasonable in nature and to be consistent with principle number 5 of the comprehensive plan. As I stated, staff is in support. We also have the applicants here if there's any questions of them as well.
Does anyone have any questions, Mr. Burmark?
Shane, I have a question.
Yes.
So I'll make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So we're just changing the UDO to allow additional districts to be able to specify things by right versus coming back.
Right, so if something normally requires a special use, or even if it normally is permitted with additional standards, as part of their request, they can ask to have it permitted by right. You don't have to do it. You could look at it and say, no, I don't agree with that. But it at least gives them the option of requesting that it would be permitted by right. Right now, they don't have that ability. So that they don't have to come back. The main thing is so they would not have to come back for a separate special use permit.
So this is more of a procedural change, not so much, we're not speaking to any specific roadway standards or design standards, it's more just procedural.
Correct.
Okay.
It's just procedural. You still have all the same authority you do now. It's just, it would all be in one hearing rather than 2 separate hearings.
So the outcome could potentially be the very same, just not so many steps to get there.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay.
And it would basically come down to if we decided not to allow those additional uses, we could approve a conditional district without them, but only if the applicant was still willing to accept that.
Correct.
Okay.
This public hearing is now open. If anyone wishes to speak for or against this, please step forward. Quiet group tonight. All right. Public hearing is now closed. Gentlemen? Okay.
I'll make a motion to amend the EDO in relation to chapters 215 as they relate to the manner in which use is permitted with conditional district by allowing to be done by right. If I word that correctly.
As proposed, what was proposed by staff? Is that
Correct.
what you were saying?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Item 3C, public hearing, discussion, and action on the zoning map amendment requested by the Greater North Carolina Jurisdiction Church of God in Christ Incorporated to seek a conditional district.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the board. As stated tonight, we're asking to hold a public hearing on a conditional district request and then take action, which could either be to delay action, approve the request, or deny the request. The applicant is the Greater NC Jurisdiction Church of God in Christ. The petition is to create a CMX conditional district for approximately 43.5 acres. The proposed conditional district consists of 5 tracts for a mixture of development as shown on the master development plan. This property is located within the town limits of Wendell in a split zone between corridor mixed use and neighborhood center. The intent of the application is to alter certain standards from the UDO as identified in attachment B. You have a mixture of residential, vacant, and commercial property that surrounds this site. There's a zoning map of the site which is outlined in red, showing the difference between the NC and the CMX. Here is the site master development plan. So here you have the existing church off of Wendell Boulevard, a commercial tract that they're proposing, a tract C for a meeting facility that the church would contain, as well as wetlands that they would propose to have some trails and nature walks and that type of stuff in there. Tract D is 26 single-family residential lots, and Tract E is a combination for senior living. You've got 36 duplex or townhouse units that hasn't been decided yet, a 40-some unit independent senior apartments, and then a 100-unit essentially nursing home. Just to give a little context, the second phase of Edgemont Landing, which has been approved for their own master development plan, is in for its final development plan, and the stub connection that they're required would continue on down to Wendell Boulevard if this project were approved. There's an aerial of the site. You've got the existing Edgemont Landing here, the future Edgemont Landing, the storage center, the mini storage, and then the City of Raleigh Public Utility yard, and then a single-family residence here. And just an aerial showing how Edgemont Landing matches up with this site. The applicant is proposing 11 conditions for the proposed conditional district. The first is that no special use permit is required for multifamily development, including townhouse duplex units, apartment buildings, and assisted living housing services for the elderly. That was just passed in the last item, so this would put that text amendment into effect so that they would not have to go through the special use process for this. The second condition is that core samples of the existing drive aisle be tested to determine the construction of the drive aisle and any necessary public road standards prior to the approval of the first development plan. The applicant is proposing to provide the core sample of the existing drive aisle that will be converted into a 70-foot wide public right-of-way. The applicant will make these improvements to the base layer prior to the approval of the first development plan. Staff finds this acceptable and the planning board accepted the applicant's condition. The third is that restrictive covenants will be submitted and reviewed for approval prior to approval of the Tract E final development plan. Providing these covenants for staff review will ensure that appropriate protections are in place for making sure that the future community is harmonious to the desires of Wendell. Also, Tract E is being developed for senior living, and some standards are requested to be reduced for senior living. The restrictive covenants would verify that residents meet a minimum age threshold. Staff finds this acceptable and the planning board accepted the applicant's condition. The fourth condition is that the water allocation policy worksheet must be approved independently with each phase of the plan. The water allocation policy is a point-based allocation policy using base points. It's difficult to determine the correct base points and bonus points for each tract with the master development plan. For example, the use for tract B has not been determined yet, so it's almost impossible to determine what the appropriate base points would be. Staff finds this request acceptable and the planning board recommends accepted the condition. The fifth is that speed humps and tables shall not be used for traffic calming. The town of Wendell generally does not allow for speed humps and speed tables to be used for traffic calming. If a vehicle is low to the ground, damage could occur to the vehicle and it's possible the town could be liable for the damage. Staff finds this condition acceptable and the planning board did as well. The sixth condition is that a greenway path shall be a minimum of 8-foot wide asphalt with the exception of environmentally sensitive areas where boardwalk or other permeable material will be used. The applicants proposed to provide a greenway through the site as part of their amenities. The UDO does not have a requirement for this type of surface to be required. The applicant proposed to provide asphalt unless it crosses one of those environmentally sensitive areas. Staff finds this request acceptable and the planning board did as well. The seventh condition is that stormwater management maintenance parties will be identified at the time of each tract's final development plan. The UDO requires maintenance of structural BMPs must be accepted by an HOA or lot owner. If stormwater is handled in a manner other than a structural BMP, other options are available for maintenance. In general, the town does not accept maintenance of these devices. Staff finds the request acceptable, as does the planning board. The eighth, this one's a little long, it has to do with residential development standards. States that where garages are presented on townhouse or duplex units, they shall be set back a minimum of 1 foot from the front facade. No vinyl siding allowed on any multifamily or attached units. They set out some design standards for townhouse, duplex lots, and single-family lots. Also, for apartments and the nursing home area, they kept the garage doors would not be permitted on the front elevation, that all rooftop screening shall be rooftop equipment screened from view, and kept the design standards that our multifamily has right now. The applicant has proposed multiple design standards for the conditional district. The proposed single-family and duplex townhouse lot sizes are actually larger than the minimum standards required in the CMX district. The minimum setbacks are the same as what is required in the UDO or greater in some instances. The garage setback of a minimum of 1 foot from the front facade and the exclusion of vinyl siding from multifamily units are standards above and beyond the UDO. The The applicant has also proposed these standards in hope that it would alleviate any concerns of the look of the product and make the town board more comfortable with waiving the SUP requirement. The applicant has removed these standards requiring porches, stoops, and raised entrances since apartments and assisted living facility are being developed for seniors who may not be able to walk up to a raised elevation or would not be appropriate to have a unit that would have a porch or balcony for safety reasons. These conditions shall supersede all of the design standards found in section 5.11D of the UDO. Staff finds the proposed standards acceptable. However, we do recommend in section 5.11C4, keeping the requirement that building elevations visible from the street require a minimum of 60% of the facade to contain doors, porches, balconies, and/or windows, and that 30% of the side and rear elevations to provide the same options above. Staff finds that this provision ensures that long spans of blank walls are not visible from the street. The planning board accepted the staff's proposed change to the condition. The ninth condition is that certain uses be precluded from track B, which include manufacturing, wholesale storage, and civic institutional. The applicant proposes to include these as they would not be as attractive along Wendell Boulevard, and staff finds this request acceptable, and the planning board accepted that condition. And the 10th is to have shared parking for the meeting facility to use with the existing church parking lot, and that pedestrian island provide safe pedestrian crossing. The UDO does allow for satellite parking so long as the continued availability of off-site parking spaces are necessary to ensure through an approved condition such as this one. This condition in the site plan would require that satellite parking be approved or provided on track A, and that if parking was not made available in the future, the site would be in violation. Pedestrian safety has been made a priority by providing traffic calming and a refuge island. Staff finds the request acceptable, and the planning board accepted the condition as well. The last request, or proposed condition, is the vested rights period shall be for 3 years, and the applicant shall have 2 years from approval of this plan to secure a valid building or construction permit before the conditional district is rescinded. The applicant's requesting 1 additional year to allow for more time to enter into contracts with developers of all the tracks. The project is complex with a diversity of uses provided and would warrant multiple developers for the full implementation. Staff finds the request reasonable, but would recommend slightly altering it to state that the conditional master development plan secure a valid building or construction permit before the conditional district rescission process may be initiated. The rescission process is not automatic and does take time to go through the process, so this change recognizes that rescission will not happen immediately after the 2 years. The planning board accepted the staff's proposed change to the condition. As currently proposed, this has a mixture of improvements and exemptions being sought. The applicant's proposing to add open space beyond the minimum required, provide a paved greenway that connects to the Edgemont Landing Greenway. It excludes certain uses along Wendell Boulevard. It does provide a recessed garage requirement for townhouse duplex units, and no vinyl allowed on any multifamily products. There are wider streets being proposed throughout the commercial and senior housing tracts, safer pedestrian crossings, and additional lot standards above and beyond the CMX district. All other proposed changes, such as not requiring the SUP approval, a longer period to obtain construction permits, and a reduction in some multifamily design standards, such as the node raised elevation, the roof pitch, required porches and stoops, do constitute reductions in design and site standards. There were a couple other minor changes requested by the staff that technical in nature, and development of the site for parking, lighting, public utilities, landscaping, stormwater management. They would all conform to the UDO. For streets, at the time of construction of all new roads, the standards of Chapter 12 would be met. The applicants proposed a 70-foot right-of-way, a 60-foot right-of-way, and 3 50-foot right-of-ways. As earlier stated, they're also providing traffic calming refuge for the pedestrian parking for the shared parking. The applicants also required to upgrade the paving of the existing street to a public standard. All drives shall meet the standards of the UDO. As recommended in condition 2, the improvements for frontage of tract A along Wendell Boulevard shall be constructed at the time of the first development plan. And also, NCDOT has stated that a left turn lane on Wendell Boulevard may be allowed They have also indicated that deceleration and acceleration lanes may be requested on the westbound lanes. The exact timing and design of those improvements will be determined by NCDOT at the time of final development plan. Applicants proposing to phase this into 5 tracks. The comp plan, this falls within the S5 intended growth sector, also partially within the Wendell Boulevard Gateway Zone, and partially within the neighborhood center. The statement of plan consistency that the planning board adopted states that the proposed conditional district is found to be consistent with the recommended uses and development types outlined in the Wendell Comprehensive Land Use Plan for the S5 sector. The proposed district is not completely consistent with the recommended uses and development types outlined in the comp plan for neighborhood centers. In staff's opinion, the request is still reasonable to approve since the majority of the conditional district meets the intent of the neighborhood center. Staff recommends approval of the proposed conditional district with the 18 conditions as recommended by the planning board with the 2 modifications by staff, condition 8 and 11. Staff recommends including the design standards found in 5.11C4, which ensures that the long spans of blunt walls are not visible from the street. The planning board recommended 7-0 in favor of the conditional district, and once again, there is the site plan. Tonight we have with us Sharon Rue of Rivers and Associates. She's the landscape architect. She has a brief presentation she'd like to provide.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you, Patrick. I'm Sharon Rue with Rivers and Associates. I'm a landscape architect. And I'd like to introduce our project team, if I may, starting with the church, our clients, the Church of God in the Greater Sea Jurisdiction, Church of God in Christ. And we have with us the project visionary, Bishop Bullard. We have with us Superintendent Austin Parker, project leader. We have Superintendent Tommy Murphy, project manager, Pastor White, also project manager, and Hersey Keys, also project manager. It's been our great honor to work on this project, and I'd like to also introduce the project engineer, senior project manager, Steve Janowski, and with Rainey Kemp, our traffic engineer, Andy Archer. Thank you very much for having us this evening and for reviewing our project. Just to give you a little bit better familiarization with exactly where the site is and just a little bit more detailed, in addition to what Patrick has already presented. Our site is located, as he mentioned, on Wendell Boulevard in the front half of the site would maintain a commercial presence, and the back half of the site is designed to be part of the more residential edge. Just a color rendering to give you a little bit better idea. Color sometimes kind of helps in addition to being able to see the plan. This site is envisioned in 5 phases. We already have our, what we're calling track A is the existing church site. There in the photographic representation. Just to the west of that is a commercial tract. That's our track B. To the north of that is what's envisioned as a meeting center and academy retreat center area, which is adjacent to the existing wetlands area, intentionally positioned in order to take advantage of the natural features of the site. North of that, adjacent to the proposed expansion of Edgemont Landing is, as Patrick mentioned, 26 residential lots. Our tract E is continuing community retirement, continuing care retirement community. As you can see in this slide, a lot of the site is wetlands. This both encumbers the site to some degree and bisects the site, but also we are considering it a very nice feature of the site, which has the potential for some nice recreational as well as conservation aspects. There's also a jurisdictional stream that goes through the site, and we're showing the adequate buffers for that. And our proposed open space falls in some places within some of that buffer area, but also outside of the buffer area. So this is going to have quite a bit of open space in this site. Here's our proposed dedicated open space. The location of the proposed greenway, the 8-foot asphalt, and in some places probably permeable, depending on the environmental sensitivity of the area. This is showing you how much area is actually going to be conserved on the site. The part that's solid is the dedicated space, and beyond that, in the sort of striped representation, that is additional open space that is just conservation area. There may be, in some of that, some informal trails and maybe wetland-type gardens in there, but nothing that isn't approved by the jurisdictional bodies that need to approve that. And represented in the orange, there is active open space. We're envisioning that as possibly lawn bowling or croquet, bocce ball, some sort of an active and social opportunity in the senior living area. Tract B, just showing you a blow up of that area. Right now, it's not sure what that may be, but as Patrick mentioned, there are some exemptions, some exceptions to what that might be. Right now, it's somewhat dependent on whether or not it's kind of a market-driven situation, that the church would like to maintain quite a bit of control in order to make sure that it is in keeping with the vision that they have for this site. Are supposing that it could be a hotel, it could be restaurant, it could be office and light commercial retail. Track C is the retreat center academy area, and that would be open to also to the public. Track D, the residential single family, very much in keeping with the same type of development that you see up in Edgemont London. And the continuing care retirement facilities, we're showing 3 tiers of care. This is envisioned, the part that you see in yellow is envisioned as duplex units, and possibly in some areas there would be multi-unit townhouse type, but probably a ranch style type that would be most suitable for senior living, and definitely just targeted to seniors. This is the apartment units area with adequate parking for seniors. And the assisted living, which would also have a townhouse, a clubhouse and possibly dining facilities and other amenities related to that. These are some photographs of typical similar features. The townhouse duplexes that you see in the upper quadrants of the slide are of Glen Eyre and Cary, and that is very much kind of a model for what we're envisioning. The slide to the lower left is of, that one is Crowsdale in Durham, Crowsdale Village, And that's their assisted care in the clubhouse area. And again, Glenair Apartments, bottom right. Once again, the image of the whole site. We appreciate your time, and we're here to take your questions and comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do any of y'all have any questions from Mr. Reedy or?
That's over, Mr. Reed. The road alignment for, I guess would be the northernmost portion of Road D, where it would join the Edgemont Landing. Yes.
Yes.
That aligns with the street that's proposed in Edgemont Landing. Is that a happy accident? How did that happen?
Through this planning process, we shared that plan with Rivers and Associates, and they were able to match it up perfectly so that that's the purpose of why we require stub streets. And this is one of the great examples of why we require them, so that we have a future connection.
Excellent, I like it. I have a question about the requirement, the request to eliminate the porches, stoop, and raised entrances. That was for the senior living portion. Is that the apartments only, or is that also the duplex units that are around the outside?
That is only for the apartments and the assisted living right now because of the state change last year. The condo or the duplex and townhouses don't have that standard anymore. So
And we couldn't get it if we wanted to. But the state keeps us
if
from
the
being able to do
applicant
it.
was
Yes.
favorable for it.
Yes. Okay. My next question is the drive aisle width at the pedestrian island between the meeting building and track A. What is the actual lane width? That said it was a traffic calming device, and to me that means that normally if you're not going to put in a speed bump or a speed hump, that means you're going to narrow the lane. What is the width of those actual drive aisles?
12 feet on either side. It's a 36-foot wide street, the whole width, and then there's 12 and 12 and 12.
Okay.
Does that make sense? No, it doesn't narrow at that point. It narrows beyond, where it starts to narrow is beyond the entry to the senior facility.
What is the width there?
36 foot.
Third, but that's in total.
Back to back, yes.
That's in total.
11-foot lanes.
So 22-foot total drive width.
The drive width, at that point where it exits, and it starts where it narrows, where it narrows is 24 foot.
It's 24 foot.
It narrows to 24 foot, yes.
Okay. Well, let me explain where I come from. When you start talking about getting ambulances and fire trucks and police response and things like that to the neighborhood, obviously you want a wide enough lane so you can fit.
Right.
Fire trucks and ambulances keep getting bigger for some reason.
Yes.
And I'd be a little happy to see 14-foot drive width minimum, especially around a pedestrian, because 12 is a little bit narrow, but is the pedestrian island going to have anything other than grass on it, or is it going to be planted in trees also? I assume there'll be trees on both sides of the road. Will the island also have trees?
Possibly small trees or shrubs, but nothing that blocks view. It would need to be something that respects the sites behind us.
And nothing that would overgrow the entire lane?
That's right.
Okay. And the usable open space doesn't include the BMP ponds?
In some places, there may be some overlap, and that would be where the ponds would be intended sort of as an amenity also.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
I have a few here. In regards to track E, help me with just my terminology. You mentioned three different things. You mentioned assisted living center. You mentioned an apartment unit, and you mentioned a continuing care retirement center duplex townhomes. Kind of what's the three kind of clientele basis we're looking at those three different areas?
Yes, the overall community area, the overall for tract E is considered a continuing care retirement community. And there are 3 tiers of entry into a retirement community often. Those who have a little bit more ability to get around and probably a lot more mobile would, and able to afford it, would perhaps choose to move into one of the duplex or townhome units. It's typically the more active and newly retired individual that chooses something like that. And this is up to the developer, and some of the standards need to leave to them, but for some communities, it is a natural progression from one to the next, and I'm not sure how this would be set up. It would be up to the developer, but the next level of care would be to be in an apartment, and a lot of times the apartments have a little bit of assistance. I know that at Rosedale, they have, you can get room service. They'll come in and take care of your laundry and take care of your house cleaning, some of those tasks. So there's somewhat of an ability to care. Once you need more care, then that's moving into the structure that you see, the large structure there, that would be an assisted living facility, as well as probably a clubhouse and dining facilities.
So we're almost looking at a senior living community over there on that track E, and that's going to be kind of how that's dedicated to. Now, okay, and then that blue, the track D is more of just single residential family homes, kind of more of an extension, almost more of an Edgemont landing in a way.
Yes. But definitely age restricted. The whole thing would be age restricted. There wouldn't be an option for someone to either move into the single family or, it's still a retirement community.
In that retirement community, those townhomes, homes, are those homes that would be rented to the people, or those homes that people will be able to purchase, or that's something we don't know about yet?
In terms of that,
Okay.
But I will add that this is all market rate.
yes.
And Natasha, I had another question for you regarding the DOT, regarding that Highway 97, Wendell Boulevard, kind of merging right there. So you were saying a left turn lane, you were coming into Wendell, a left turn lane basically through the median?
Yes.
Into that area?
If somebody's willing to pay for it, engineering can do just about anything. And so they're investigating what that cost would be and if it's feasible. And if they sell off pieces to different developers, how they could put in different amounts to make that possible. We're looking at probably about $500,000 or so, according to the engineer's estimates, to put that turn lane in. So no small feat, but
Yeah.
it's one that could be done if they want to make that investment. But regardless, DOT is carefully considering how all this should function. It's a very tricky site. Right now, you're not supposed to do U-turn when you get to the line of 97.
Right.
So all the options are on the table at this point. They've hired traffic engineers to study those options and present what they feel is the best option to DOT, and ultimately it comes up to them to ensure that adequate safety is met.
So because if we're coming into Wendell, Wendell Boulevard, and we get to one end of that development, I mean, as it is now, how would we enter it? We would go up 97 and enter from that way, or how would we enter that development?
Yeah, you have to come up and go somewhere, make a U-turn on 97 and come back down on
Okay.
Wendell Boulevard right now.
Okay. So
Or
we feel like-
continue on to Wendell Boulevard and turn in somewhere.
we feel like something's probably going to need to be done to facilitate. I mean, okay, I'll do that.
And Mr. Archer has been doing a traffic impact analysis on
Okay.
this.
Okay. I know it's early, these are just some ideas that I was thinking about too as well. So is there any entrance on track E? I see that kind of, road kind of runs up to the end. Is that exit on anywhere?
No, back up to the aerial. So right now there's a single family lot that's in the county's jurisdiction right now.
That house?
Well,
I see what your point is there.
So that entrance is about right there where it stubs. So
Okay.
the possibility is one day that the senior center could expand and acquire that tract. I think that's their hopes, but no guarantee. But that would provide another entrance and exit point on the Edgemont Road.
But it's, right now, it's just a stub road. Okay, thank you.
I have a question about track B. I know it's kind of preliminary right now, but when will a decision be made as to what goes in that commercial spot?
It will be a matter of talking to potential developers and what the developer may be interested in putting there. We're vetting the idea that possibly be a restaurant. It could be a small hotel and a small restaurant. It could be a fairly large restaurant.
Are they planning to do a market study for that, especially for a hotel?
A little bit by the church, but probably more so by any potential developers that would be partnered with, and they would definitely be people that had expertise in the area. It would be somebody that was a novice for sure.
Yeah, because a hotel there may have some challenges in that spot, and I want them to succeed because their success is our success as well. So I just want to make sure that they do that. So, are there any other questions?
I have one.
Okay.
How long have we been working on this concept?
You met with us about 5 months ago or so.
5 or 6 months. We've been involved for 8 or 9 months, Steve.
Do we have any potential developers on the hook? I mean, I have to assume at this point, at this stage, I know there's cost, and a lot of people don't take this cost on without having some potential deals, obviously pending, but
We've had some conversations, nothing that is very formal, but rather input sessions with a couple of developers.
who are they?
Well, this is, the purpose of this is a master plan, and the vision of Church of God in Christ involved. They've begun conversations, and at this moment in time, there's no conversations that we would disclose. At this point. But the purpose is so that we have something that an investor can look at, and you've looked at, you put your conditions upon that we have confidence that we can begin to speak to someone. And until this is approved, and whatever those conditions are, we won't have that confidence. Part of the goal piece is not just the investor, but it's keeping with the vision that they have.
And I'm sorry, I think you said earlier, the order of the development, was there a particular order they had this laid out for, or was going to be, we don't know yet at that point either.
We do not, and it depends on who comes forward first with an interest in whatever particular piece. The one thing that we have agreed to is that the through road would need to be developed with the first phase.
Okay.
So as it falls into place, it will take place.
Regardless, that drive aisle would have to be upgraded for any of these tracks, whichever comes in first.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Board?
And I know we're working with the planning board on the revisions to the transportation plan or recommendations. Wanted to know if that had any impact on this. I know we're getting close to that one little loop area there.
The main thing was that they're providing the dedication along Wendell Boulevard. I don't believe there's any other impact to the transportation plan itself.
Anything else? Public hearing is now open. If anyone wishes to speak on this project, step forward. Give your name, address.
My name is Matt Ellis. I live at 5943 Cooper's Hawk Trail. My property is right up above track E. There you go. Thanks for the assist. And I'm here to speak for myself as well as the HOA of Edgemont Landing. We are really excited about just about all of this. We share the concerns about a hotel. and hope that it's something that all of our Wendell residents would be able to use. The small area that we have a concern with is units 28 through 36, which is right along that side. There are 9 duplexes / townhouses slated to go in that area. That area is approximately 1 acre. That is a pretty large difference compared to what the adjacent properties are, which is 4 to 5 per acre. And that's an awful lot of structure right next to what Edmont Landing has become. Units 30 through 33, which are directly adjoining Edmont Landing property, the setbacks that were displayed earlier, I know this is an earlier plan, but that area right there does not go with the 25-foot setback from the rear of the property, at least based on this plan. So that's a concern that we have. We are also are concerned about the amount of trees that are left there. I know that they talked a lot about open space, and we're loving the open space idea, but we really would love to see mature trees left, not cut back, and then planted with something a year or 2 old. I know that we're under some Neuse River guidelines along here, but there's also only a 30-foot buffer that it says we have to leave them as is. The extra 20 feet can be cut back depending on the species and what is in place. We're hoping that we leave 50 feet alone for a natural buffer as much as possible. We are also concerned that along those mentioned tracks, right up there is flood-prone soils surrounded totally. I've got it pulled up here. It's you can see the blue / line goes all the way around where they propose to put that area. I know that Edmont Landing, their newest phase that they just completed, they're having problems with flood-prone soils there through there. People have had electricity problems because the ground is so saturated right there. So that's a concern of ours and should be of the residents that would end up purchasing or going there. Talked about the removal of trees. Just please, as much as possible, we would love to see that 50-foot buffer left in place. And here's kind of what we're looking at in order of preference. Shooting for the moon, we would like to see the conservation area adjacent to 28 through 36 be left as is, and all of those units be left as trees. That's shooting for the moon. That's what we would like to see. Next in order of preference would be the units 28 through 33 not be built because of the earlier mentioned buffers that aren't in place, and that possibly even move, maybe if we have to have something there, move the side ones, which I believe that's 29 and 30, move them maybe around and slide them up, get rid of 9, come up with a smaller number to allow for more conservation of wooded section between existing properties and the new proposal. And we are also, it was already mentioned earlier that it seems like the townhouses, the duplexes will be 1 story. We're in favor of that. I know that they could be granted up to 3. We're requesting 1 to 2 max. So that's our concerns in a nutshell. Thank you for your time. I look forward to any minor changes you guys want to be able to make.
Thank you.
And I just have a very short question because I think this sounds great. But I want to know about the tax that it will generate. I know we've just settled on a really tight budget. And will this be tax efficient for the town if we should take the right of the town limits?
You go ahead if you'd like to. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. Speaking first to the gentleman's concern,
We have a situation up in that corner that, yes, it is fairly tight. There's also some easement through there. However, in order to make it efficient and worth actually crossing the stream, which is an expensive proposition, we need to be able to fit as many lots in there as possible. And the lots are larger than the minimum size that is typically is required for a townhouse or a duplex. And yes, they'd be one story. The houses that are shown in there are not actually the houses. They're rather a representative sort of largest thing that you could possibly fit. So I imagine that in some of those lots, the houses would look a little bit different and narrower. It would be a simple thing. It's intended that that be conservation area in that corner. It would be a simple thing to include some shrubs and some height and possibly some buffer planting in keeping with what's typical between lots, as would be seen the 10-foot buffer if we needed some additional screening or possibly a fence there for the tenants. As far as tax revenue, I can't really speak to that, but there is some commercial aspect to this, which, as I understand it, is a tax generator. Also the density of the site, which we feel like is in keeping with very efficient and a conservation plan for this area. Thank you.
And I believe these are market value.
They are market value, yes.
Is anyone else? Okay. This public hearing is now closed. Gentlemen?
I've said before, and I'll say it again, I'm a big fan of multifamily, and higher density projects. I think this is a pretty good place for one, right off our main, the main road, and where it's 4 lanes. In general, I like the feel of the project. I do think there are some valid concerns that have been brought up, and it would be. I would like to table it at least until the next meeting before we take a vote on it. To have time to talk about some of the people around this to be affected, and also talk with possibly talk with the developer of the Church of God.
I have a quick question for Patrick. If this current plan is approved as is, and they were to sell tract B to another developer, even though those lot sizes are larger than what we require right now, that developer could change those lot sizes, correct?
Correct. If anything changed at all with this plan, at the time of the final development plan, if we didn't, the final development plan calls for conformance to the master development plan, and if we found that it didn't conform, either by lot sizes or the product that they're proposing or anything like that, then the UDO calls for the master development plan to come back before you all to revisit why those changes happened.
What would that buffer be between those houses that the gentleman discussed and trying to edge my land?
These ones?
No,
yeah. It's a 10-foot buffer. It's the smallest buffer that's required. It's not much.
Is that an undisturbed buffer, or is that
so if there's
simply
existing,
nothing? If that's how far you can build back.
So if there is vegetation there, existing vegetation, they can use that for credit, or if there's not enough existing vegetation, they plant to meet so that it calls for enough. And that's not, the 10 feet is just a buffer that has to remain in place as a visual screen, and then they call from where the 10 feet start, a 25-foot rear setback. So essentially 15 feet from where that buffer ends back is where they would have to have their setback.
That would be basically the rear yard.
Correct. The 10 feet would be a part of the rear yard for those lots, but it would be included in the backyard with that 10 feet as part of the 25.
Can you talk a little bit about flood-prone soils?
That's not really any of our expertise. We contract with Wake County Environmental Services for stormwater and erosion control, and they they've always done a great job for the town as far as if there was something in question. Some of those soils can be, bring in fill for certain type of things. I know the O'Reilly and Family Dollar site had a lot of similar kind of wetland, marshy kind of soils, and they brought in a whole lot of fill for that site. I'm not sure what the engineer has plans for that upper area. Welcome him to,
But that would be managed in some fashion.
yeah, it would be evaluated by Wake County.
Okay.
I would agree with Commissioner Webb to table the vote until next meeting.
Okay.
We can make that a motion or just?
Yeah, in a motion.
I'll make a motion to table any vote until the following July meeting.
Okay. All in favor? All right. Item number 4, ordinance permitting the operation of golf carts within the town of Wendell. Chief Carter.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I come before you this evening to make a presentation regarding a proposed ordinance to allow golf cart operations on the public streets within the town of Wendell. Here tonight, the board is asked to review a proposed amendment to the Wendell Code of Ordinances as it relates to the registration and use of golf carts on the local streets and roadways inside our corporate limits. Some municipalities within the state have selected to approve a golf cart ordinance allowing for the registration and use on local streets and roadways. A local ordinance is not to be confused with the existing North Carolina General Statute 20-121.1, which allows for the registration and operation of low-speed vehicles. There are distinctions in terms of the equipment that is required as well as the registration through the Department of Motor Vehicles for the low-speed vehicles. What we're looking at is, as a result of the question of whether or not to allow golf carts to operate on the streets under local ordinances, a lot of research has been conducted, varying ordinances have been reviewed. We've worked closely with our attorney and come up with what you have before you tonight. Upon approval, golf carts will be permitted as a transportation alternative for local residents. Golf carts would require certain equipment. That would, in basic, they would have to meet the size and shape that conforms to the industry standard for golf carts. They would be required to have rear mirrors, either a rear view mirror and a left-hand side mirror, or as you see in some today, it's a panoramic mirror that goes all the way across the top of the car. Operating headlights. I will point out to you that we've spoken to the attorney today, and we will be making a slight technical adjustment to what is proposed if it is approved. Because what we have is actually, in one area it talks about headlamps, in the other it specifies 2 headlamps and 2 tail lamps. Newer vehicles out there today actually have one long LED that provides the illumination. So for clarity for participants that might engage in this program, as well as for the officers challenged with it, both inspecting them and enforcing them, that's just a technical thing we feel very confident we can fix without any problem. Of course, also no taller than 22 inches in height from the road to the bottom of the carriage, which would be the floor plate, if you will, because some people do elect to elevate those things very high. The higher up you go, the more top-heavy and the center of gravity shifts. That's something learned in consultation with one of the towns that I spoke with in our research project. The proposed ordinance does require that individuals operating under this golf cart ordinance be required to maintain liability insurance the same as the minimum for a passenger car in the state of North Carolina. And it is written, quite frankly, so that if that changes, they mirror each other, if that. It would require a registration with the town and specifically to the police department, and would also then result in an inspection to be conducted by the police department on an annual basis. And these would have to, the registration would have to be renewed annually. The
registration as proposed would be $100 annually and payable to the town of Wendell. Vehicles will be prohibited from operating on state roads unless authorized by the state of North Carolina on low-speed vehicles. A vehicle registered as a low-speed vehicle by the state would not be required to register as part of the golf cart ordinance. So there are a few registered low-speed vehicles here in town, and those folks, if they elected to do it, could continue to operate under that theory of law or under the statute as it exists. And at this point, I'd be happy to entertain any questions, comments you all might have as we move forward.
Any questions for the chief?
Yes, Mr. Ward.
You said that the police department will be responsible for doing the inspection to make sure that they initially meet the requirements and yearly. How much of a burden do you expect that to put on?
I've seen some studies that suggest that the inspection process takes about a half an hour to do. It is a very functional, it's not a deep, like the Department of Motor Vehicles inspection. It's high level in that respect. You know, so the load it's going to place is going to be based on the number of parts that elect to go that route, because elect to purchase them. I've not really heard in speaking to any of the places that I have contacted or any of the research that I've had in hand that it really created a tremendous burden at all.
Okay. And the standard vehicle fee that the town of Wendell charges is $20. Do you anticipate the additional 80 would be enough to cover, since they're not going to be inspected by the state, and since all those other fees that would be incurred if they were to be licensed as a regular vehicle, would that additional cost cover the cost to have your officer do the inspection and that sort of stuff?
I mean, I think that would be fair. The cost of that, the cost of purchasing the placards that will go on the vehicles, because they will have to be re-inspected and re-tagged annually, so they'll show the current registration. So there are some costs in both the administrative processing of paperwork as well as that physical inspection. So that seems to be an appropriate number.
Go ahead.
This is just limited to electric cars, right?
No.
Yeah, I believe we left it open.
So, I think.
Yeah, you know, and that was one of the issues that we got into when we discussed what would be inspected, and because, you know, certainly inspecting gas cars is a little bit more problematic. Like a little bit more of an area of expertise than quite frankly we would have.
Are there any other questions, comments? Okay.
I have one more question. Wendell Boulevard, Selma Road, and Wendell Falls Parkway are excluded from operation even if they are 35 miles an hour. The reasoning for that, is that because those are state roads?
Well, that combined with the sheer traffic volume on those roads. But nothing will prohibit you from being able to cross those. And if there's no direct crossing, true perpendicular intersection, you will be able to diagonally cross. An example I could use would be at the end of Main Street here at the Boulevard. You could jog left or jog right to be able to get over to Pine. But looking at the roads, and it's not uncommon to see in ordinances that other towns did, to pick the roads that had high traffic volume or peak traffic volume to just say it's better to stay off of those.
Anything else?
Now, just to say, I think this is going to be a fun thing for downtown and around town. Hopefully, something will spur a little bit more economic development and increase revenues before we start next year's budget. And with that, Madam Mayor, for motion. And we adopt the ordinance as written.
All right. We have a motion to adopt the ordinance as written. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I'll let y'all know when the drag race is scheduled. I'm just saying that for his benefit.
I'd like to say go ahead and get the stickers ready, because I think there's about to be at least 2 new golf carts in town fairly quickly.
Maybe have to get a Post-it note sticker for a little while.
We can make it work.
Item number 5 is a resolution for the 2017 Board of Commissioners meeting schedule. Ms. Palmer?
Madam Mayor, members of the board, each year the board is required to adopt meeting schedules. And what you have before you as an attachment 5
is, it does include the retreat date that we already have scheduled for, in addition to our regular meetings, January the 21st, Saturday. What this does is it puts it out there for the public to notice, as well as any changes that come up that we can make changes to. We are ahead of schedule this year, which is a good thing. And I would be glad to take any questions you have. You're going to have a couple of holidays where dates may change from a regular Monday to a Tuesday, but this is pretty typical of what we do each and every year.
Should we decide to add a mid-year retreat, we can just add that in, right?
Absolutely. If
Okay.
we decide special call meetings or an additional retreat, that would be announced.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Finer? Can I get a motion to approve the meeting schedule for 2017?
So moved.
All in favor?
Uh,
All right. Item number 6 is approval of the 2017 holiday schedule.
Again, Madam Mayor, members of the board, the board is asked to look at the holiday schedule that we have to do again each year. Doing it early is always good, especially for our police department. They have to schedule a lot further out than their other departments, and it's definitely beneficial for them. This is done in accordance with our personnel policy that we have to do each and every year. One of the interesting things that you'll find here is, and it has come up in recent years, is some changes that the state made to their policy as far as holidays, and they typically get during the Christmas holiday season 3 days off. Some municipalities just state that they will adopt the state policy, and others have actually individual policies. The last couple of years, the town of Wendell has been a little off as far as sometimes it will have three days during that holiday season, other times 2. Last year we had 2, the town of Wendell did, and the state had 3. This will be another year. So some people just automatically assume that the town of Wendell follows the state policy. It does not, and just for planning purposes, just want to make people aware of that. It is a little bit different.
Somebody have any questions for Ms. Finer?
Motion to approve the holiday schedule for 2017.
Well, okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? Honestly, I would like us to consider, maybe you can alter your motion, following the state holiday schedule. I think that's something we have to do every few years anyhow, and I think it's a nice thing to do for some of our employees, to connect their holiday to a weekend. And what do y'all think about that?
We would add,
This
this year in particular, just add a single day.
It would add a single day. Yeah, we'll just add one day.
Okay.
I think it's a nice gesture.
I do too. So can you alter your motion to adopt it to reflect the state of North Carolina holiday schedule?
Yes, I'll alter that just to, for the holiday schedule for 2017 to reflect the state holiday schedule.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 7, presentation of Citizen Advisory Board applications received since June 13, 2016.
Madam Mayor, members of the board, at our not actually last meeting, but the June 13th meeting, we did make adoptions and appointments to the Citizen Advisory Committees. After that appointment, we did have a few vacancies remaining. The board asked the staff to continue looking and accepting applications. We do have 1 vacancy left remaining on the Board of Adjustment, 1 position, 1 vacancy on Economic Development, 1 ETJ vacancy on the Planning Board, and 2 vacancies on the Tree Board. As we have continued in accepting these applications, you will also see those included in your agenda packets. I'll be glad to go over those that you have. You'll see that, and actually we'll get down to the voting process here shortly, but you have, for the Tree Board, what we have is available
Keisha Staten, Carolyn, I can't say, these are names, these aren't from Wendell originally. And Bobby Clinton Honeycutt are on the tree board, have applied there. Also, we have Mercedes Ricardo that has applied for the position of the Economic Development. Mr. Honeycutt has also applied tree board and for the Economic Development Committee. Nicole Fields has applied for Economic Development. Andrew Gallant and Kenesha Staten again. Also, as far as the Board of Adjustment, we have Mr. Tommy Scoggins that has also applied. We did contact those that had applied to see if they would be interested in coming before the board. Some that you may know, others you may not. We don't know if anyone is here tonight. If you would like to come forward and just state your name to the board and let them know of your interest.
Good evening, my name is Bobby Honeycutt. I am over on 332 Maddox Street. I am the youth pastor at my church. It is Calvary Faith Center, just across the field, I say, from East Wake High School. And I feel it's my duty, civic and civil, I guess, to be more part of the community and just sort of do what I can, as little or as great as that can be. I filled out the application, and there, at the time that I did the application, actually came over and did it on site. And I had filled out for either one, and so I was suggesting that, wherever the greatest need is where I would be willing to serve. I have MS, so I am disabled, so I don't know how many trees I can plant anymore. I used to do that, but I can, help say where they go if that's where my services are needed. So, wherever I can be of help, I am willing.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mercedes Rico, and I applied for the Economic Development Board. And I just recently finished college, and I feel like this is the perfect time. I'm back at home and back in my hometown where I can actually serve, the city that I love. And with my background in business, I feel as though economic development would be the perfect committee for me to be on. I also recently opened a business in downtown Wendell, so I feel that it's important for the small business owners in this town to be involved with, all the various boards and making sure that our town is growing and the economic development is continuing. And I want to also know that I was really excited to see that new development that was proposed, and I'm excited to hear what you all decide at the next meeting.
Thank you. One thing that I think we might want to talk about real quickly is that on some of these boards, the vacancies are specific as to the residence of the applicant. The Board of Adjustment has an ETJ vacancy. The Economic Development Committee doesn't specify. The Planning Board has an ETJ vacancy, and the Tree Board doesn't specify. So we've got a good little stack of applications this time, and I really appreciate that, but it may be that somebody might not wind up in a spot simply because now that we're getting down to the very end of all of these assignments, we have run out of spots where you would fit because of your residence. And so y'all keep that in mind when you're filling out your ballots.
At this time, Sherry Scoggins, she will pass out the applications for the tree board. You have 3 there. Again, there's not a residency requirement or a ETJ requirement for the tree board positions. For the public to know,
Just to be aware, as we fill out ballots, it is not a secret ballot process. Each board member is required to sign their actual ballots, and it is recorded in the minutes. Following the tree board, you'll see your ballot as economic development. Again, as our mayor said, there's not those same requirements that you would be placed such as on the planning board. With the planning board, we do have one position that is in the ETJ and one applicant there, and one ETJ member for the Board of Adjustment.
Madam Clerk and members of the board, your selection for the tree board are as follows, and are unanimous, are Kinkesha Staten to complete the unexpired term through 2018, and Bobby Honeycutt for the 2019 term.
As we're looking at the ballots and tabulating those, we'd like to thank all the citizens that have applied. We're very fortunate that we have had a good number this year, and our citizens are very active and involved, and I think we can see it throughout the community of the exciting things that we have taking place.
Might actually be full.
That would be great. First time in a long time.
That's great.
Okay. Madam Mayor, members of the board, it's a unanimous decision. Ms. Rico will be completing the unexpired term through 2017. All right, Madam Mayor, members of the board, is the unanimous decision to appoint Terry Allen Swain to complete the term expiring 2017 on the planning board, and to appoint Tommy Scoggins to the Board of Adjustment with the term expiring 2017. These will be going to the Wake County Board of Commissioners for final appointment and will be sent out before the close of this week. That's all we have for you this evening for the
Once
boards.
this is all, we receive those approvals, can we get a new little updated spreadsheet of all the citizen board and when their time runs out?
Yes, ma'am.
And their contact information?
Yes, ma'am. And this does give you full membership in all of your boards.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Item number 8, update on board committees by town board members. I think the only one we may have is Commissioner Joyner's Wendell Fire Department Board. Did they meet? Okay.
They did.
Just give us a quick update.
I phoned in for that phone call. I was out of town, but made some changes to the way that firefighters can access their retirement benefits and investment portfolio stuff. and the rest of it is normal business.
All right, thank you. All right, item number 9, Commissioners' reports. We'll start with Commissioner Joyner at that end. All right.
Just echoing everyone's comments, I've watched the parade from about 700 miles away through Facebook and social media. I wanted to compliment the town on being 700 miles away. I still felt like I saw everything in real time. It was very cool to see that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Boyette.
I was also unable to attend the 4th of July celebration, but I feel like I was here in spirit. But everything I was told, it went off absolutely fantastic. And it is one of the things I always look forward to every year, and I hope they'll catch up. And I would like to personally thank the Historical Society for all of our work they do.
Commissioner Meyer.
Yes, I too want to thank the Historic Society for all their efforts, as well as town employees who hosted Yuri, and Patrick especially for making that connection and seeing that through. Thank you so much. Also, I will not be able to attend the meeting in 2 weeks. I have continuing ed training with my company down in Charleston. I do have a meeting at the East Wake Senior Center on the 21st, but I will email my reports to the mayor.
Also, it was great to see the town out. It's a town. I mean, everybody put a lot of work into it. But seeing too many faces out there on Monday morning was a thing of beauty. And so thanks to everybody who made that happen. And then kind of congratulations to the town as well for having every citizen board spot filled. It's been a while, so that's great.
Commissioner Carroll.
So I'd also like to speak on the parade on the 4th and just say if you missed Fletcher's reenactment of Washington crossing to Delaware, you missed a great sight. No, it was a good time. Huge community and citizen involvement. It seems the parade gets a little bit bigger every year, so I'd like to thank the Historical Society, town staff, police, fire, everybody involved that makes things like that happen. That's part of what makes Wendell great. And I'd also like to note that the undeniable winds of change are blowing in Wendell, and good things are happening, and everybody's seeing that, and as a result, more and more people are getting on board. And as our citizens boards are full, I'd like to thank everybody that applied, and also all that have been selected to take the position very seriously and make sure we're all doing our part to make Wendell better every day. And that's it. So thank you.
Since we last met, I attended the Eastern Wake County Education Workshop. This is something that's put on by the Wake County Public Schools. And we've been meeting for well over a year, maybe even close to a year and a half now. And at this point, this year, what we're doing is we're beginning the implementation of some of the recommendations that that group made. We went through a series of, I don't know how to describe it any better. There wasn't really like charrettes, but things that we went through to kind of narrow down our vision and figure out what we needed to do. One of the committees that I wound up placed on was regarding town government and the connection between towns and schools. So you'll probably start seeing a little bit more involvement here. One of the suggestions was to maybe have students come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance at town board meetings, and for us to have spotlights on teachers when there's a Teacher of the Year at various schools and teachers that receive some kind of awards. And I typically do that, but it's difficult to get that information sometimes. So this is going to be a better relationship, I think, because they know we want it, and I'm going to get it from them, and we'll be able to do a little bit more. In that vein, prior to that meeting, I actually spoke with the manager and the IT director about including information from the schools and a connection to our website and the page on our website that takes you to our various schools on our town app, so that you can go to that and go to the school websites through our app and see all kinds of things that they're having, whether it's hopefully science fairs, STEM projects, sporting activities, or whatever that's going on in our local schools. So these are the kinds of things that we can do that don't really cost anything, but they're very effective in creating a good relationship between the town and the schools. So certainly I'm willing to do that. I want to thank the Historical Society again and for the 4th of July. It really was fantastic. It was really great. I have no idea how we'll top it next year, but every year it gets better than the year before, so I'm sure that we'll think of something. I also want to thank everyone who applied for citizen boards. It was so nice to have such a big stack to look at. And those of you who didn't, because of your residency, get to serve on a spot, please contact me because I can find some things for you to do. We always have things that we need to do. I got this sheet. I think these are some things they'd like me to announce. So free breakfast and lunch for infants through age 18 is going to be offered July 11th through 27th at Wendell Elementary School cafeteria. You don't need to do anything. You don't even need to be a student at Wendell Elementary to go, so you just show up and go. And I hope those who have need of that will take advantage of that. Breakfast is from 7:30 to 8:15 and lunch from 1:15 to 2:15. So please take advantage of that and pass the information about that around if you know someone who's in need of that. Former Commissioner June Mantic passed away. Former Wendell Commissioner June Mantic passed away July 8th. She was a Wendell Commissioner from June 1973 through 1977 and has the distinction of being the first woman to serve on the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Her family is going to receive relatives and friends for a time of remembrance prior to her service from 10 until 11, Tuesday, July 12th at Harold Pool Funeral Home in Nightdale. And we wish her family the very best. Citizens are invited to come tomorrow night to an open house for a pedestrian plan that the town of Wendell is working on right now. This is going to take place at Wendell Elementary School in the Media Center. So if I hear about sidewalks, well, here's your chance. So come in and talk about it. We're going to talk about sidewalks, crosswalks. The bike paths count in that? Bike paths, are they part of pedestrian
Not really,
plan?
not unless it's part of a greenway or something.
Okay. So come on in and tell us what you think. We'll be at the Wendell Elementary Media Center Tuesday from 5 to 7. And the last thing is, this is a reminder for the board, the Wake County Mayor's summer outing is this Friday at 5 County Stadium in Zebulon. Gates open at 6:15 and the game starts at 7. And I think most of you are going to be able to be there, and that's always a fun crowd to hang out with. I'm glad to have some of my folks with me this time. I always feel like I need some backup sometimes. Anyhow, with that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn? We're adjourned.